Hello, everybody, welcome. Was a psychic investigator. Everybody, welcome. Was a psychic investigator. So, guys, I'm here to the office. I haven't been in a while, and it's interesting. I got a new light clip, light that clips to the computer, so you could see it's it's much brighter. So it's interesting, how lighting plays a role in all of this. So I'm gonna make this today's video. I started working on it yesterday, but I was almost too emotional. Of course I was. And it was late, and so I stopped in the middle and that's what we're doing. I'm doing a new video with the same subject, which is that yesterday, uh Israeli police had prevented the the priest who is, let me read here, the Latin patriarch, who is essentially the guardian of the Holy Sepulchre Church, right? And yesterday was Palm Sunday, and that commemorates the day when Jesus goes to Jerusalem, and the fact that that happens on Palm Sunday, I don't think is a coincidence. Okay, I think it was on purpose, but it was so repudiated by not only the Pope himself, he has very vocal about where he stands in terms of the war, right? But all these other countries, all kinds of countries have been expressing outrage. And so, of course, I was also outraged myself. I cried and everything, even because I was like, wow, they did it on that day. And then also, it turns out that Israel bombed. When I saw that, I cried. I think also they bombed the mausoleum of St. Peter in Lebanon. So I was like, wow, it's a real, straight up attack on Catholicism. Christianity, okay, and oh my God, there's all these alarms. Oh my God, I have so many alarms. It's weird. Okay, how I have so many alarms going. They beep and they distract me. But anyway, so let me make sure that there's nothing. Okay, so anyway, I was very upset about this because I've been praying a lot, of course, right? And these things obviously are not coincidences, okay? And then it just feels like they're daring the world to do something. I took a screenshot of this. Israeli police prevents mass from being celebrated at the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem and bar Cardinal Pizzaballa from entering. And so this was yesterday. And then later in the day, they changed their tune after all these presidents from different countries and the Pope himself said something. Now, I know that, of course, the Pope is not a fan of Bibi, but it was it caused outrage. But I really think that's what they want, but we'll figure it out. Okay, we'll figure out. I have to show you this and then I'll ask the question. So Latin Patriarch will have access to Jerusalem, holy site, after police stopped entry. So the whole day this was a big outrage. And then later, very much later in the day, Bibi made us some kind of statement that said, oh, he can come in now. Israel's prime minister has said that Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem will now have full and immediate access to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre after police earlier prevented him from celebrating Palm Sunday Mass there. Benjamin Netanyahu said Cardinal Pizzaballa, the head of the Catholic Church in the Holy Land, had been asked not to enter out of concern for his safety, as Iran had repeatedly targeted Jerusalem's holy sites with missiles. Now, by the way, I still feel like there's a possibility for some sort of like false flag. Okay. The decision to block the Cardinal from entering Christianity's most sacred site had been criticized by several Western nations. Israel's police later said it had agreed to a mutual framework with the Latin matriarch for Easter celebrations. On Sunday, Cardinal Pizzaballa and the Reverend Francesco Yelpo were stopped outside the church, believed to be the site of Jesus Christ's crucifixion, as they were planning to hold a mass to mark the start of the Holy Week, church authorities said. Cardinal Pizzaballa's office said it was the first time in centuries a Latin patriarch had been turned away from the holy site on Palm Sunday, which marks Christ's return to Jerusalem. Right. So, um, okay. So then then later I guess, the matter was resolved. But what a situation, right? What a situation. And then here, let me show you this. It's just very upsetting. See the picture. Do I have it here? It was a picture of the site that was bombed. Okay, in Lebanon. So I like to ask them for protection because I want to know what the hell's going on. Okay, so I like to ask for protection, a beautiful ray of light coming on top of my head as I breathe in. I feel my lungs as I breathe out. I breathe, circle, breathe, circle. I step into it, I step into it. I feel protected. I feel connected. I like to ask that information come only from the highest sources, that it create the good and all the good as it is. Oh, I need to tell you this. So, of course, I'm in Brazil right now, and when you are probably familiar with the Bolsonaro, who is now in jail here. Bolsonaro is aligns with Trump and is a famous evangelical, Christian or whatever. His son, who is said to be running for president against Lula, came out and said that he supports Israel. And Brazil is famously a Catholic country. It's not a very strict Catholic country, but it's a culturally Catholic place. So he sided against the Pope, right? And with Israel. And a lot of those evangelicals are very pro-Israel. But it's interesting because in Brazil, the fact that he did that, it's gonna cost him a lot of votes. Like that he came out and said it like that, this guy. So to me, it's what it feels like it is some sort of attack on Catholicism because the Pope has been very progressive, very anti-war. So let's see. Well, let me ask. I want to know two things. What what's the point? What are they doing this? I mean, you could tell us the dark agenda and everything. And how is it going to be stopped? Because it has to be stopped. So what's going on? Wow. Yeah. You see BB among, there's all these ruins, and he is putting a poster of himself there. Like, look, it's about me. I'm the center. None of these religions matter. It's about me. And I do think that even though BB is using the excuse, it's like, oh, I am Israel, the way it's here. It's not like it's a idolatry. It's like a cult of personality. So he wants to say that it's so weird. He's like, they need to fear me because I could do all of this. And again, it's the same thing with the false prophet concept. Because he's saying, in other words, know, I know, only I have the power to change, to destroy things or make them not be destroyed. And it's like he's the Antichrist kind of figure is forcing us into some, it doesn't work. So it's like he's completely delusional, and he's saying he's against the Catholics for siding with the Palestinians in the Palestinian cause, and against the brutality, right? Because if it hadn't been for the brutality, the genocide, and all that, it wouldn't be an issue. But because he decided to go ahead and go crazy, right? There's a reason why the world doesn't like you, and is very now siding against Israel. It's because you've done some crazy things that are not okay. So, but he's saying it's like threatening the world and saying, "I dare you to stop me because I have power." And that's why, in a theological sense, he's acting like an antichrist, right? He's like, I know God doesn't matter. What matters is me. I'm above God. I could kill people. I decide whether they live or die, essentially, right? But that's not his job. Okay, so how is it going to be resolved? Because that's what has to stop. Is anybody gonna say no? Right? Is anybody gonna be like, it's not worth associating with this? What is it gonna take? Again, I see Trump going down and then the US being forced to give up the support of Israel because see, they're doing even Bibi is mocking Trump even. Like he's saying one thing in public and doing another. And I see that we have endured a lot of losses, human losses already. There are a lot of it is being hidden from the public. And then it's saying it's going to come out and we're going to have a lot of military losses. We're not going to be able to support Israel. So once that happens, it's saying it goes. And it's saying there's no real residue. They will never change. People, Bibi, and that mentality is not going to change. What is going to change is whether there, if there's limits. Once limits are placed, and like, oh, I didn't really mean that. It's not what we're just following orders or whatever, right? Um, so so what it's saying essentially, as soon as the U.S. stops, and it's showing me again, the waiters are destroyed, have been destroyed, and that is very harmful to Israel actually in the Middle East. So okay, let's see. It is. I was going to show you this. This is how, because this war, this is what is so crazy to me. Bibi doesn't see or doesn't want to see how harmful this war really is to Israel, actually, because by attacking almost like every single country around them and immediately moving to kill a lot of people and grab land, they're gonna, people in countries are like, now they're like, nope, I'm not gonna trust those. No, I'm not gonna go with that. And look at this. This was in the Wall Street Journal a couple of days ago. Israel is rationing its best interceptors, and Iran's missiles are getting through. With supplies under pressure as the war drags on, the country is turning to upgrade versions of less capable munitions to fill the gap. So, in other words, they are already under pressure. And as this intensifies, and in the moment, I don't see the moment Trump goes, and it's saying even before that Trump goes, they will have enormous pressure, right? Because the population is exhausted and Tel Aviv is under threat. There are truly missiles going through. So it's saying, and I see again the image of the army having to walk back. Wow, and it's saying eventually a tribunal being formed and having to prosecute war crimes in the future. I don't know when exactly, but it's going to be part of it that they're going to guarantee safety in exchange for justice. And I see, wow, there's a lot of photos of children like begging for food and walking to get water. And those kids may testify and say, how did you lose your parents? And all these stories are not going away, essentially. Okay. And this is the thing. It's like, and it's sad because Israel, like kind of like the US in a different way, they let a crazy man take over, just like we did, right? Nobody was able to stop them, and so it continues. All right. Okay, so Israel has begun rationing the use of high-end missile interceptors, hoping to preserve stocks of its most capable defensive weapons in the face of daily Iranian barrages that haven't let up through 4 weeks of war. A pair of Iranian ballistic missiles recently scored direct hits on the towns of Dimona and Arad after Israel tried and failed to intercept them with modified versions of less advanced munitions. Israel faced another alarming bombardment on Thursday, with residents reporting sirens going off constantly and several missile hits across the country. Okay, so this is right. That's just to show you that already they're not as capable as like, they don't have enough to keep going, honestly. And because again, I think Bibi is so old and crazy, he doesn't care about the future of younger Israelis either. And there's a lot of resistance, I think, right? So I'm saying again, the world is like, and it's almost biblical, right? In the sense that when you push things in a way, in a direction that is unfair and unjust, the balance tilts the other direction. And I don't think, and I really don't think that there's the whole excuse of like, oh, we're just defending ourselves, but you just they went way too far, and it's causing the opposite direction. And so another thing that I'm picking up here is that Trump is so crazy on that. He's trying to get those Arab countries, the GCC countries, to pay for the war. And again, I don't think it's going to work. But I think it's like to pay for the war, meaning he wants the money, as much money as he can. And I don't think it's going to work because it tells me, it was telling me in 6 months, these countries are going to be finished. Wow. Until they agree to stop the US from using their bases in these areas, it's going to continue. And they're like, they'll be ruined, it's saying. They believed the orange clown and they're going to pay a price for it, right? It's again, the whole thing feels biblical. So it's saying, Rosie, yes, you've been saying this for a long time, it's going to happen. It is because the logical conclusion of this is like, if Bibi is allowed to do whatever he wants, he's just going to kill everybody, like just to get land. And it's not going to work. Okay. So the limits have to be drawn. As hard and as awkward, like, you know how some like the culture of do nothing has to end just because of survival, not because even of like, you know, anything other. It's like, if we don't do this, humanity goes out the window. So, and that's the thing, it boomerangs in a different direction. So, and say in some ways, it's like, that's what I feel like Bibi has signed. I know it's not going to sound harsh when I'm saying, but it's almost like he has signed a death warrant for Israel, the country, in that sense, because he went too far, and he's not taking into consideration everybody else, right? Not only his own countrymen, also the younger Israelis and the world. And I say this is the epitome of false prophet energy. So it's saying, it shows me again this idea of the wheel. Like right now, these people are in power here, there, and there's all this like BS going on, the whole AI bubble thing, and then things will flip, just like the Wheel of Fortune. So I'm gonna say no. It really is very interesting. So that's it for now. Okay, and there's one last question. So what about these like so-called, evangelical like Christians or whatever that are happy with this, the whole thing with the Catholic? What's going to happen to them because they have this whole prophecy? So it's saying they may it may actually happen in the sense that they will be the ones who will suffer the consequences, though. They thought it's saying they were pointing fingers, but they were pointing fingers, hoping and thinking that it was gonna. It's like as long as they pointed a finger at others, nothing was gonna happen to them. But in fact, it did happen to them because meaning this whole. I do think we're gonna go through some sort of like religious spiritual experience collectively, and the people that lie and cheat will be exposed, and there will be consequences, but there will be consequences to them as well because they are the ones doing it. And it's saying, and it's this whole thing that God says, we don't, there's just like what the Pope said, we don't want prayers from the people that are shedding the blood, right? They're spilling blood. So Mother Sheridan is spilling, right? So God is watching. Just because you're using God's name, it doesn't mean that He doesn't see that you're using it in vain. And it's saying, I see God throwing thunder at them. We're watching. We're watching, we're not sure about. So that's interesting. Okay. All right. All right. So this is it for now. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.